back. All right, 5:31. So we are going to get started. Welcome to the Baltimore City Trauma Informed Care Task Force. It is great to be with you. My name is Zeke. Proud to chair this exultant, excellent body of amazing people. This meeting is being recorded. It is live on YouTube. Today is March 17th, 2022. Very, very excited for today's task force. We have an awesome guest speaker joining us, and we got time to do some work. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. I know folks are just jumping on, but I'm going to go ahead and get us started with going around the horn or doing our rounds question. And that rounds question is something, if you could, something that is giving you hope right now. Again, it is what is giving you hope right now. And I think Anne is gonna bloop people into groups, and then and if folks don't know each other, obviously do introductions. And then what is one thing that is giving you hope right now?
All right, I'm going to send you to your rooms and give you just a couple minutes. We'll come back 5:34. Hi, Corey. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Is the meeting today?
Yeah, we were just in breakout rooms and we're coming back. So
Okay.
welcome,
okay.
welcome. Glad you're here.
Yes, indeed.
Hi, Corey.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. It's the weather. Don't worry. You didn't miss anything too much.
Yeah. I was
Just
like,
getting on.
where everybody at? Okay.
You did a in breakout rooms. You did amazing with the video.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Representing for your subcommittee.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
love how it flowed. And it was in
Yeah.
layman's terms. You can understand what was being conveyed. So that was cool.
Outstanding. Thank you. It made me feel good.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, Corey, your video was awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm happy. I'm excited. Yeah, everybody's video was awesome, for real. Like, so much energy and passion, and I like the layman terms everybody can understand. And it's last group was awesome too. Oh, every group was awesome. We got stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Desiree, that's homie right there.
Oh, I think everybody's back now.
All right. Well, welcome back. And to my friends Donna and Corey's point, these videos we've been putting out are awesome. We've been putting them on the Healing City social media pages, so definitely folks should check them out, share them, show the world some of what we've been doing. And it is really, really, really cool to see, everybody just kind of doing their thing. So with that, welcome back. I hope folks are feeling very hopeful. I know that I am, and that this task force is a big part of that. And I hope that folks got a chance to check out the summit that we held. I know that a few people were integrally involved, but it was wonderful, and it was over 1,000 people, and folks from all over the country and all over the world, well, at least North America, came through, and it was really great, and an entire week of excellent events. So with that, I am really excited to welcome our guest speaker for today. Veronica Jackson is the executive director of Baltimore's Pivot program. They're an 8-week women's reentry workforce development program. Pivot's core value aims to help women who are justice impacted reclaim and rebuild their lives. Veronica is a Baltimore native committed to enhancing, exposing, and expanding Baltimore communities and families. She is tremendously dedicated to the community and to dismantling all negative stigma associated with Baltimore. She believes that Baltimore is a beautiful, unique place filled with amazing people. Veronica trusts that the keys to community are abolishing systemic foundations, increasing transparent communication, and implementing grassroots community lifestyles. I have just been incredibly moved by the work that Veronica is doing in community, and the way that she has been supporting women and really working to dismantle some of our worst, most oppressive systems here in Baltimore. So with that, excited to turn it over to Veronica to talk a little bit about the work that she does, and really the connection between incarceration, reentry, and trauma. Because as we know, trauma influences and contributes to so many of our worst ills within this city. And so I think that her work speaks for itself, but I'm gonna let Veronica take it away.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be here. Thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this amazing conversation, and just to present the work that we're doing, but also be a part of brainstorming how we can continue to move our city forward. So thank you. And I know that you're gonna help me with the slides here, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about myself, and just as a Baltimore native before we jump right into Pivot. I am born and raised in Baltimore. I have such a strong passion for families and for just our city. People, oftentimes you can travel anywhere in the world and people are familiar with Baltimore. And so I think it's just so important that we all are a part of doing this work to continue to highlight all of the good that is happening here. And although we do have some areas that we can grow and strengthen, I believe that it's really possible if we all are coming together in our community and working together, everyone in their own way and in their own space. And so I really believe that is what it takes to move our city forward. So, and you can take it away with the slides. So this is Pivot, and we are a workforce reentry program strictly for women. Our program services approximately right now, we're doing 60 women a year, and we service any woman who is justice impacted. So she could be a returning citizen. She could also be a woman who has a previous criminal record or a woman who has a pending charge. If she is currently facing charges, we work really hard with those women to also help advocate for them, in addition to sometimes when getting a charge, you may be unemployed or not in the best position. And so we're hoping that by the time you enter into our program and through the supportive services that we provide, by the time you're in front of the judge, you are able to show the judge that you're now in a different situation and being very on your path to productivity and a positive contribution to our society. Next slide, Ian. So this is the mission statement of Pivot, and it's just that we are a nonprofit that connects women released from the correction system with critical services to reclaim their lives and rejoin their families, reintegrate their communities. And we provide not only workforce development. People oftentimes think that they are coming to Pivot as a woman and you're just going to get a job. But we know that it's so much more to helping a woman who is a returning citizen. And a lot of that is to be able to help address a lot of the traumas and the interior barriers, in addition to sometimes the environmental barriers and the traumas surrounding just even being in prison and then being released back to society. You could go to the next slide, Anne. I'm sorry. So what we do offer is 8 weeks of personal success coaching. And the personal success coaching is very important because no one person is alike. We make sure that in our program, there are a plethora of programs in the city, but we want to make sure that women are not just getting a job. That's the thing. We want a woman to do what it is that she truly desires, and she builds the life for herself that is going to help her to always feel like she can continue to move forward, and to upward mobility is very important. We also offer workforce development, and we know that not every woman wants to get the same job. So in addition to the soft skills and prepping women for obtaining employment, we also want to make sure that we have a tailored individual program that helps the woman to achieve whatever goal or desire that she has for returning to work. Sometimes that means some women need work skills and some women are just ready to go directly to work. But each woman's situation is different. Each woman is different, and what she desires for her work might be different. So that's why we make sure that that part of the program is tailored specifically to that woman as well. And in addition to that, we offer what are called our wellness workshops, ensuring that women are able to build a toolbox of wellness tools. Not everyone responds the same way to different wellness tools. So where therapy might work for one woman, art therapy might work differently for a different woman. So over the course of 8 weeks, we work to expose each woman to different wellness tools, all from art therapy, dance therapy, nutrition therapy, also essential oils. But more importantly, we also spend an hour in doing a therapeutic trauma group. Next slide. And these are just a little bit of our stats that we are very proud of. As of right now, we have a 76% of women who are placed in employment. 13% of our participants enroll in either a vocational training or a skill-based training that makes them employable. and 9% of our participants enroll in adult education GED type programs. So if you're looking at these numbers, you can see that a lot of our success is based around just being a part of that woman's, being a part of her support system and making sure that we're helping her to work on her individualized goals. But we are very happy that we're able to place and connect so many women with their employment goals, and that we're really dismantling the stigma behind hiring returning citizens. We have a plethora of employer partners that we give a lot of credit to, because we could not do this work without them being open to dismantling a lot of the stigma with hiring a returning citizen. So I want to open the next portion of the presentation up to really just talk about what does it mean to support a woman who is a returning citizen, and how does that impact look in our city and addressing some of the different trauma. And this doesn't mean that you only can support a woman who is a returning citizen, but anyone who is a returning citizen. There are really just 3 key factors that are very, very important. One of the factors is empathy, being able to not feel sorry for that individual, but having a conversation to understand. Sometimes what we oftentimes make judgments about returning citizens, it's because we fail to really understand and get to know that person as an individual. Oftentimes you'll find that we all have more in common and we're more alike than we think than we are different. And so that is very important in understanding, just having empathy to understand that a person's situation or what may have led them to commit a crime, and how they're able to still be very beneficial to society, be a part of society, and give not only their contribution, but oftentimes more than their contribution to society when we think about it. The other thing is opportunities, and understanding that we all are different. And I know that for me, I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. Oftentimes, many of us aren't the same person we were prior to the pandemic, but we all every day have opportunities. And what we really notice is that in our society states, you go to timeout, you send your child to timeout, they come out of timeout. You don't follow them for the rest of the day saying, you were in timeout, you were in timeout, you were in timeout. They are given another opportunity to start fresh. And that's what we're asking for. That's what it really takes to help support a returning citizen. Just being able to be given the chance of a new opportunity, whether that's an employment opportunity, whether it's a housing opportunity, and whether it's a community-based opportunity to get involved in activities in the community, to lead things within their community. Opportunity is very important in supporting returning citizens. And lastly, most of it is access. How much access oftentimes depends on if a person is able to access things that is going to help them to be sustainable. And when we speak of access, we mean, are they able to access mental health services? Are they able to access supportive programs that will help to support them and navigate along this journey? Are they able to access some of the supplemental things that they will need to help them to sustain until they get on their feet? Oftentimes, when you see that people return back to the criminal justice system, it's because the lack of resources and the lack of access and support. And so that's why Pivot, we really strive and aim to be that hub, that support for the women. But it's not just about employment. It's about addressing the entire woman and understanding that and addressing the entire woman. If we are working through some of that trauma, dismantling some of that barriers, doing a lot of that internal work, then that woman is showing up to her new job the very best version of herself, because she's done a lot of the work. She's dealt with some of the things that has happened internally to her. And more importantly, her hope is restored. Most of the time, that's the biggest challenge. I I can get you a job easily. But it's a part of restoring the hope so that you not only have the confidence in yourself, but you also have the confidence to go out into society and have the confidence that society too will be welcoming you. Any questions so far? I know I've been talking for a minute. So I want to turn it over for a moment to Ms. Dominique Peck, and she's going to just give a brief overview of her experience in Pivot and the impact that it has had on her life and some of her takeaways and how Pivot in the community has been beneficial to her. Ms. Dominique?
Hey, V.
Hey, dear. It's
How are
good
you?
to see you.
I know, it's been a minute. Yes.
So you can just talk about now your experience in Pivot, how Pivot has helped you along the way, what you're doing now, the amazing things you're doing and the supports and things.
Okay. Well, I was introduced to the program by somebody else because I'm new to the city. I moved from Texas. I hadn't been here, I want to say about 2 weeks before I got into the Pivot program. And when I say that program has changed me, it has changed me because I was the type of person that was in a shell all the time. And when these ladies came into my life and they brought something out of me that I've just buried for so long, I put myself in a box. And going through the program, they taught me independency, the truth about myself, the insecurity that I had. They also taught me that my prison number is not who I am, and I shouldn't allow that to hinder me from doing anything that I know that I can do. Mm-hmm. That program gave me a voice, because I this right here is not what Dominique could do back in 5 months ago. But it taught me that I do have a voice. That program has matured me as a woman. I mean, you know, you can always grow no matter how old you are. Maturity can still be taught. And that program has, oh my gosh, y'all, it's just so much about this program that has just changed me. I no longer allow people to tell me what I can't do, because I could do anything that I put on to do. Independency, the courage is taught me to step out and don't discourage yourself, because I was very, very discouraged. And Veronica know when I first got there. Overall, it's just, I am just so excited about my new life, because back at home, they don't have offers that help people with second chance. And I was stuck. I'm not stuck anymore. It was a tough 8 weeks. And by the end of the 8 weeks, I was able to get up in front and talk about any and everything. And to this day, what that program has taught me, I'm helping other people, and I don't realize that I'm helping other people because I was helped. Now I know how to help other people, to don't allow their numbers or their past stop them from doing anything. I have a cousin right now. She just came home. She probably been home probably a month, and that baby is so discouraged. And she was like, cousin, when I left, you was somebody that didn't talk. You was somebody that didn't, you just was in a shell. Who is this new person? And I promise, I told her, I said, baby, if they can get this program in Texas, you will love it. You will love it, because Miss V know the old Dominique. That little thing. They walked up in there, didn't care to talk to nobody, just sat in my corner and listen. But it, you know, opportunities for jobs, yes, they help you with jobs opportunity, but I stepped out on faith and I tried it myself before I allowed this program to help me. But I know if I want something better, I know where I can go to for the resource. I could pat myself on the back for that, because when I first got to Baltimore, I was like, girl, you ain't gonna find no job down here. You ain't gonna do this. You ain't gonna be able to do that. I was here a good 3 weeks, got a job, been here 5 months, and Miss Veronica has helped me get an apartment, and I you know, that program helped you so much. I recommend it for anybody.
Thank you so much, Dominique. You know, I always tear up when I hear you guys talk. So for those of us that's not on, you know, that don't know us personally, I really want you all to just take a moment to understand the Dominique that came here before. The Dominique that started Pivot, although she was free, this lady had been free. Dominique, how many years did you serve?
7.
She was still in prison when she came to our program. And the reason being is that, like she said, she had shut herself into this box and put so many limits on herself, and not really believing that the opportunities awaited her. And so to see the person that is before you now, that she is not only employed, she is moving into her new apartment. She is working so hard. She's earned different certifications, and all in this time frame with the support to believe that she could, and the support of the program, and understanding that behind Dominique and every woman, every man who is a returning citizen, there is a story that's greater than their ID number. And that's the most important thing in understanding. Sometimes you gotta really dig deep into those, the generational curses and the trauma that led a lot of them to a role of criminal activity, and dismantling that you always have a choice to be free to choose for yourself. Don't let your circumstances, don't let the environment, don't let the other people choose for you. You are an individual to choose for yourself. And one of the biggest pieces of Pivot is freedom. And women think that freedom, we're talking about being free from prison, but it's not. We're talking about the freedom for you to choose for yourself the things in which you truly desire. That any life is possible, no matter what your previous life was. And so understanding that what it does is that it's really starting to do the internal and core work on dismantling a lot of the barriers that we place upon ourselves, you know, and understanding how society will label us and we'll have different stigmas, but we don't have to adapt and evolve into those labels. We can still determine and choose for ourselves the things in which we desire. So I would open it up if, I don't know if Councilman Cohen, if you had any questions you wanted to ask, or if anyone else wanted to ask me any questions, or if you wanted me to dig deep into anything in particular.
Yeah, so first, if folks could just give both Veronica and Dominique just a huge round of love and emojis and clapping hands and such. Just want to say really, really appreciate the work. Dominique, really proud of you and just the journey you're on. And, you know, just to say that can't be easy. And I'm sure there's, you know, some really, really, really deeply hard moments there. But no, I'm just proud of you, and you're come an amazingly long way. And just want to say that if ever you want to come by and be part of Healing City, Baltimore and the Trauma Informed Care Task Force, there's definitely space for you here. With that, do want to open it up for any questions or comments that folks have. But again, just want to say, really, really good work, Veronica. Appreciate what you do. Does anyone want to just jump off mute and throw one out there? I've got a question, but want to give space for everybody else.
Hey, family. My question, well, it's not a question. It's like, could you, like, everybody needs your information. Like, you rock. Everything that you've done rock. So if you could put your information in a chat, like, I know everybody can go and use it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'll put my email in the chat, and I'll put the Pivot's website in the chat. Okay.
Please, that's what I need. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, both Veronica and Dominique, for sharing. My name is Shauna Mary Brown, and the work that you are doing at Pivot, Veronica, is exactly what we've been needed. I don't know when did you found this program?
So actually, before coming to Pivot, I've always worked with families. I see a person on here that I am so in love with, Dr. Gross. I actually worked at Commodore, and I was the family services coordinator for a program called the Judy Center. And prior to that, I was I worked at a program called WAR. So the program at Pivot was actually founded 4 years ago. I came in as a consultant in last February. And we basically revamped the entire program, and we're interviewing for executive directors. And because I was at another program, and what really brought it about is that we were getting really great candidates, but they were not from Baltimore. And the fear was that it wouldn't be able to be implemented the way that we designed it. And so at that time, the board asked me to interview. And so I've now been there for over a year and a half now, and so we have an all new team, including myself. And I've just been really proud of the program and the direction that it's going, and just being able, I'm always honored to be a part. Any woman who trusts us, we have to always understand that that's an honor, right? To be a part of her journey. She doesn't have to let us be a part of her journey. And then when they begin to trust us and build rapport and relationship with us, we always want to make sure that we're honoring that woman.
Well, Veronica, thank you. And I do want to invite you to share if there are needs that you have or support, right? There are folks watching on YouTube and the Trauma Informed Care Task Force. Are there any supports and ways that we can support you besides flooding your email with praises?
Oh, yeah. So we are always, and one of the things that I strongly say is that we do take donations. Please don't think that any donation is too small. One of the main things that we always want to make sure is that women have professional clothing. I know that a lot of people are working from home now. Donations for professional clothing. We always accept monetary donations, right? We are a nonprofit to keep the doors open and the lights on. But also, one of our other very high needs are women's hygiene products. If you, and that could be anything from tampons to pads, anything hygiene related for women. Myself, I was taken back the other day. I was in Target and I said, when did tampons become $8? So everything is going up. So we always, those are definitely some of the things that we definitely need and always accept. And sometimes I want people to know we're always looking for mentors, whether you are in a professional setting, whether you're a small business, someone to help mentor the ladies along their way, especially when they get into employment. They're still connected to us, but just someone to be able to help them, mentor them. We accept that as well.
I have my list, Veronica. Okay, I will be emailing you with some of these things you've asked for. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. We really do. Any more questions?
Hey, Veronica, this is Panagis, Untitled Chapter, great presentation. I have had the honor of working with Pivot before when Emily Thompson kind of, back in the genesis of it. And everything you've shared, has been spot on. One of the big, do you know Martine? She was one of the early.
Yes, Emily's still here. She's the grants and finance manager. So she's still with us.
Oh, good. She's still. I'm Dr. G. I'm the one who comes out. We run some medical stuff with you guys, talk about counseling and all of that.
Yeah, she's still here.
Good.
Yep,
Good.
and Martine is actually gonna be co-leading our alumni group starting in the summer. So, COVID with things we went virtual, now we're back in person. So yes.
No, she's great. This is one of my favorite pictures of us, but what I appreciate is you're spot on. That mentoring goes a long way. And so I realize that over time with you guys, that's one of the things people just want. It's just like, sharing your thoughts, bouncing ideas. So, for everyone here, I think that's one of the I think that's one of the most efficient things that we can provide, mentoring or just listening as well, hearing their ideas, bouncing that off. So, it was, you guys do a lot of amazing work. And for a lot of these women, it's really great to see that. And you guys create a family there too. Like that's the other part. I always felt like I was walking into a family. So nicely done.
We always want the women to know that, because some women come home and for some of our participants after serving 22 years, sometimes members of their family have passed on or are no longer here, right? And so it's very important that we create that sense of family and that security. And that's one of the big things, even with the merging of the different cohorts as they graduate, as we really dig deep into the spring and into our alumni program, also creating that sense of family amongst alumni from different cohorts.
You're so spot on. I mean, one of the things, and I'm sharing this with a group because there's parts that we wouldn't know unless you talk to them. Right. Like someone returning for 5 years, being a mom again is very different. Like she hasn't been a mom in 5 years. And now she's like just having those conversations. It's really powerful because they're trying to ideally want to go back to the identities they had. But as you said, some people have passed away, some people have moved on.
Yeah.
And so that's tough. And that's where I think you're spot on. Just listening, being people with one another, it goes a long way.
Yeah. The empathy to listen and to really truly understand, right?
Yep.
Because sometimes we get into a space where it's like, oh, you're a returning citizen. Let me fix this issue for you, right? And sometimes it's not about fixing. I just want to be heard. I just want you to know what I desire for myself, instead of us choosing for them or just assuming what is needed, but really being present to listen and lend a listening ear.
I always say it's support, not solutions. People just want to be heard and listened to. You're spot on. Nicely, you're obviously a rock star. So I was like texting Emily, it's like, you guys are so great. So nicely done.
So I just wanted to share, yes, Veronica Jackson is a diamond. And so I'm so happy to see you. And Dominique, I don't know if you can see the chat, but there's so many positive things being said to you about just being so supportive and just proud for you. And just want you to know that.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much.
So one of the things that we try to do with the Trauma Informed Care Task Force is think about what are the systems and structures that facilitate bad outcomes and re-traumatize and all the rest. So I'm curious, Veronica and or Dominique, when you think about women in particular returning from incarceration, we know that there are many, many barriers that get in the way and that make life harder after someone has serve their sentence. Could you talk a little bit about kind of structurally how you see that playing out and what could be done to just make it easier for folks to reintegrate and less miserable once people come out of prison or jail and come back to their families? What could we be doing better so that folks don't stay trapped in that cycle?
I think one of the major things is that we have to look at the way that we are releasing people back into society. That is one of the major traumas so imagine that you're in prison and you've done a number of years, right? And then you're scheduled to get out and be released, but you're supposed to be released on second shift between 3 and 11. You're not released until third shift, which is 11 to 7. For women in our program, what is one of the more traumatizing things is that being released on 11 to 7 shift with no supports from MCIW. And for those that don't know, that is the women's prison in Jessup. And as a woman, all you have is Miss Jackson's phone number. You might not have a support person, you might not. And understanding that the way that we are releasing people is adding on trauma, right? That is a lot of where we initially get a lot of like, I don't even know if I can do this. I can't even be released successfully, because I'm being released as a woman within the middle of the night, having to figure out, is the bus going to take me to downtown Baltimore, things like that. And I know that there are a lot of efforts trying to go into building a women's pre-release center, but we have to do so much better at the way that we're currently releasing women. It's so traumatic. And even when I'm talking to, and I'm not going to say any names, but other programs that women are released to and saying, you need to go to healthcare for the homeless and get medication and you need to sign up for this. Ma'am, when I went into prison, the bus did not talk to me. How am I going to get there? It's these simple things that build up it's so much more traumatizing to the women. And it really puts them in a position where they easily want to revert back. Or just, one of the key players that we brought in was Baltimore mediation, right? And the reason that I wanted to bring the mediation group in is because a lot of women who are returning back home and they are going to be reunified with their children, there has been someone else caring for their children. And then they are just dropped off and supposed to be a part of the children's life. And it's so many different things and emotions where the child has to be ready and prepped for that. But not only that, the other parent has to be ready to receive that. There needs to be just better systems and process as to how we're making these transitions so that we're not re-victimizing and we're not traumatizing people all over again. That's one of the major issues that we see. And another part of it is understanding the amount of differences between women and men and what it means to support a returning citizen that is a woman versus what it means to return a returning citizen as a male. And if you look, our system basically says already, I've even been to court and a judge has said, well, you shouldn't even be incarcerated. You're a mom, you're a woman, right? And so you're dealing with the male judiciary system. You're dealing with a lot of the laws that, this stigma is very traumatizing to a lot of women because, it's that self-blame and things where it's like, well, can I really do this when I get out? and the fear that's invoked with that because they're in this situation. And when you look at it across the board, there are a number of workforce development programs that support returning citizens. But even when it comes down to funding, exposure, and resources, those that support males returning back to society are highly more funded than those programs that support women. You know, and so it kind of goes back to, how do we support people in a way and understanding that we don't need to judge them, we don't need to re-traumatize them, but just genuinely support them. And it's really about bridging the gap and building better systems to support them upon release. You know, imagine you being dropped off in the middle of downtown California at 2 a.m. You wouldn't know what to do if you don't have a phone, you don't have Uber app, you don't have any cash money. That's very traumatizing. But oftentimes this happens so much. And it's not even having a housing plan, you know. And I know that the case managers at MCIW, they are bombarded, they're overloaded. But we as a state, as a system, we need to figure out how maybe we need to build a whole nother unit, a reentry unit, you know, or something that is starting before a person is just dropped back off into society, because it's so traumatizing. I have to keep my phone on all times of the night because I could be looking for a woman to be released, right? And things happen in prison. I know, I worked there for 10 years. I understand. But just imagine putting yourself in that woman's shoes.
No, appreciate that. Yeah, and again, thanks for the hard work that you're doing. Would love to continue to dialogue and stay in touch. And anytime you want to come hang out with the Trauma Informed Care Task Force on a Thursday evening,
I will be there.
Awesome.
Hey, Zeke, is there a moment I could just say one last thing before
Yeah,
we
please.
move on? Hey, I'm Wesley Dawson with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And Veronica and Dominique, I want to thank you all so much for the presentation. I know I'm probably just running over that, but you made a very great point about the trauma that is created for folks returning home. And that's something in the mayor's office, specifically with our work, and I hope to be able to connect with you. And I believe you may have connected with our director, Veronica Jackson, but just working with folks prior to their release. We're working through a contract with DPSCS currently to work with returning citizens prior to their release, about 3 months prior. But we've actually met with DPSCS recently, and they said, actually, they're eligible about 18 months before. So now it's like, we need to expand and maybe think about more how we're able to reach folks prior to that 3 month mark. They might have already sought employment, things of that nature. But absolutely, that trauma that is created, just trying to figure out what do I do when I return home? Will I have somewhere to be? Getting an ID, important documentation through that program that we're working on. We're connected with MOED to be able to get folks to return home to the Mondawmin Resource Center, and they'll be able to get connected with those important documents. So absolutely look forward to connecting with you after, and please continue to do the great work that you all are doing.
Thank you. I want to say that we at Pivot cannot do it all by ourselves. It is through partnerships. And I just want to say that MOED has been so impactful for us. As Mr. Logan, I don't know if you know him, but Mr. Antonio Logan is like, every month him and I meet and we talk about processing who is coming to Pivot and if they need their birth certificate and social security card. And they have been just such a blessing to us. Initially, in the past, we were trying to cover the cost of doing all this. And then in connection with them, they have made that part so much less stressful and beneficial to the women and to our program, so that each woman now is able to get their birth certificate and social security card. And for our women, I don't know about everybody else in the city, but our women don't have to go to Mondawmin. They actually do it for us right on site, on location, once a month. And so just systems like that and partners like that make things so much easier, especially when we are constantly in communications. And Dominique can speak a little bit to this, is that getting housing for a returning citizen is one of the most challenging, and they go through so many stages of anxiety, because I have women that graduate our program and they have a job, they're making $25 an hour, they can afford the different rents, but just being able to find landlords or properties that are saying, listen, we understand, we're gonna take you. We have been providing security deposits and first month's rent for ladies once they are employed, in order for them to find and seek housing, obtain housing and maintain housing, and just understanding how much of a battle that is, because our women are always targeted. Like, sometimes these landlords want me to pay triple security deposit, and I'm like, I can't afford that as a nonprofit, but understanding how disheartening that is and how that puts that woman through a whole nother process. And so it's so many ways that we can all work together here in our city to make the process for returning citizens so much more effective, and just reducing a lot of the opportunities for trauma.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Wesley. And yeah, just to reiterate, I think if we're gonna be serious about stopping violence and recidivism and all the rest, I think, to your point, Veronica, we really need to nail this piece around reentry.
Yeah.
And particularly the issues you brought up with housing. We hear that again and again and again, that even though we've passed legislation so that landlords aren't supposed to deny people based on prior incarceration or income status, they still find a way to do just that.
Yeah.
And so that's huge. And then the job piece with MOED. But again, really excited for the work you do and the partnership with Monsi, with Shantae's team, with MOED. I really think it's about how do we create an ecosystem that supports people, and hopefully that prevents people from being incarcerated in the first place, because that system in and of itself is traumatizing and antiquated and not good at delivering justice or accomplishing the goal that I think we seek. So again, just thank you so much for your work. Don't be a stranger. Appreciate you, and Dominique as well. Please come back. We do this every other Thursday night. Appreciate all that you're doing, and please give them one more round of applause.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you all for being here. I will definitely be returning.
Awesome. Thanks. Awesome. Okay, great. So transitioning to the next part of the agenda, I do want to say, come next meeting, and I'm really hoping you all are not hearing Frozen 2, which is on in the background. My daughter cannot stop watching that movie. I've tried to introduce just about every other Disney movie, but she will not. It's all Frozen 2 all the time. And she sings along. So I hope no one's hearing the background music. But anyway, at our next meeting, we are going to do in person. We're going to be at City Hall. Anne is going to send this in an email, and then probably another email. And I'm going to remind folks, we are going to have food. We're going to have dinner. And we're gonna have some time to kibitz and mix and mingle and just kind of connect across some of the different groups. One of the things we realize is that being in this virtual space for a year of this task force meeting, I think it has been good in some ways, and that it's, you can just click right on from your home, and that's great. But this is really hard work, and it's hard work and it's heart work, and being able to be in person with each other and kind of feel each other's vibes, I think is really, really, really important. And I also think that, what you can sometimes have happen is it can feel kind of siloed, and, just everybody's going to their little Zoom chat room. And so I think being in person is going to be really, really, really good. So again, that's going to be our next meeting, is going to be at City Hall. We will provide dinner. It's going to be delicious, and we're going to get to know each other in a different way, because we have been meeting as a task force for almost a full year. I think it was last March that we got sworn in, and we have never been all together in person since, I think, getting sworn in. And then a bunch of us were together at a press conference, but all the more reason for us to make this happen in person. So with that, we are now going to head into work groups. We got about half an hour. I'm going to stay here with the medical subcommittee. But before we make that move, any questions, comments, outstanding issues, anything anyone wants to bring up?
So no issue, but I want to give a shout out to Tika. This is going back a little bit, but I may have mentioned I'm involved with the internship program at University of Maryland, and Tika came and gave a presentation for our intern class this year that I have heard amazing things about. And we are so grateful for their time, and the feedback has been spectacular. So thank you very, very much.
That's awesome. Go Tika.
Stop it. You're gonna make me cry.
That is fantastic.
I loved you.
I love it. Anyone else? Anyone want to give a shout out and or comments, questions, thoughts?
If I can just thank everybody really quick, the Healing Youth Alliance had their conference on March 7th, and I know many of you got many, many emails and flyers and all kinds of stuff. Thank you all so much for attending. We had over 400 people nationally attend, and the kids loved it. And now we have another set of 15 OG HIA ambassadors. So if anybody's looking for some youth speakers to come in and speak, reach out and let me know. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. All right. So with that, we're gonna rock and roll into our subcommittees.
Okay, your rooms should be open. The medical subcommittee is staying in the main room, so you'll be here. It also means that people kind of pop in and out every so often if they've gotten kicked out. So I try and keep tabs on that. But just to prepare you for that. So I'm going to go join the Decolonizing Group.
Hey, good people.
Hi, Zeke.
My daughter is now screaming in the background about a bubble bath. So
Just hear her voice. It's so cute.
I'm adorable.
It's all good, man. Is this everyone?
I think Steve's not here. Dr. Zen, and who else?
there anyone else? That might be it. Yeah. So did everyone get our email earlier today by any chance? I guess I should say, did anyone not see the
Thank
email?
you.
Sure.
I did not see it, but I can look at it now.
Okay. So yeah, Patty Geese and I sent out an email earlier today. So I guess before we get into work, like into the nitty gritty of working on task force or action items, we wanted to just have a conversation today about how our work has been going so far in the medical subcommittee. The email was basically about how a few of us have been talking and that some of us are feeling overwhelmed, and we understand that everybody is very busy in their professional and personal lives and has many things going on. And I think just acknowledgement that some of the goals and items we were working toward felt really large and big, and were making us feel like it wasn't feasible. And so we first and foremost just wanted to share that with Zeke, and then invite him in to talk with us today, and just have more of a conversation about it. So I would like to, of course, just open the floor if anyone else would like to share their thoughts about that.
And I'll piggyback off of Lindsay, and it's all so well spelled out in that email. So Chris, that breaks our heart that you haven't. I'm teasing, joking. But Zeke pulled together some of the best in this city. And then my kids are probably going to burst through the door, which is amazing. But we're the best because of the jobs and professions we have and so forth, and we know how to unwind and be a human with our families and so forth. So I say all this because when Zeke brought us together, I mean, it is daunting, right? I mean, but needed. So we want to make sure, we use this time to kind of alleviate, the pressures we feel trying to take on something so grand, in addition to doing the things that got us here to begin with. So that's it. Lindsay and I had if you guys don't know what we were doing at 7:30 in the morning, we were on the phone talking to each other. Hopefully she was getting some caffeine. But the goal is how to make sure we can set appropriate boundaries so we don't feel overwhelmed to try to, we're not going to fix this, exhausting ourselves. And we want to make sure, I imagine Zeke feels the same way. He wants us to stay sharp at the jobs we have, because we probably make a bigger impact there than anything, in addition to everything else. So that's it. We just wanted to make sure we discuss expectations and set boundaries so we can, we don't want the trauma task force to cause trauma to us, essentially. So that's it. But that's it. One of the things in that email you saw from Lindsay and I, we said that you guys coming together for this has been the most rewarding thing I've done as an adult. In addition to my family, right? So we want to make sure we all know how to do this strategically. And I know Zeke probably realizes our success at work probably does a lot more for the task force than anything else too. So that's it. I just wanted to piggyback off what Lindsay said, what the email's intention was for. And then I'm glad, Zeke, thank you for taking our attention to this and just being here and helping us. So.
Yeah, definitely. And would love to jump in, but if anyone else wants to rock and roll, would love to hear other folks' thoughts.
This may have been, I don't know, started by me. I don't know, because I reached out to Lindsay. I have loved being a part of this because of how much I've learned and the people that I've met. There's no other way that I would have come to understand some of the things I now understand much better, and from people that I really appreciate getting to know. So that sort of brackets the reason I come every 2 weeks, even though I've been on Zoom or just working all day and I'm exhausted and anyway. But I also don't want to be a disappointment. I don't want to set us up with these goals and then go, there's no way I can actually do what we said we're going to do, or there's no way I could do it well. And because we wanted to make lofty goals. And anyway, so I think it's sort of this disconnect for me about how do I make it to the next state. I want to make a difference, but there's no way I can do what we said we were going to do. And that just feels awful for me. So that's why I'm really glad we're having this meeting.
Yeah, Zeke, you pulled together the most overachieving human beings. So yeah, we're going to be critical of ourselves when we feel like we're not. teasing. But Debbie, no, like, would love that. Like, and that's what we need to hear, because I promise you, we all are feeling that, like that. Like, and it's because we want to do more. At the same time, we're also realizing, you know, we don't want to overexhaust ourselves. So that's it. So.
Do you think we may? Because I think you guys are just hitting it really very directly. I mean, this is, yeah, the email is exactly kind of where we're at. I think we made a little bit of progress last time we met. I was going to say last week, but whatever that last meeting was, carving out a single action we can take. Because I think that's the challenge with this particular committee is institutional change is huge. Like, it's such a huge project. It's such a huge thing. And like, I think that's where I have felt a little daunted is it's like, well, how do you change a medical institution, right? And so helping us kind of figure out where those kind of small achievable tasks to kind of build toward. Yeah. Because I echo, you know, what you're saying, Debbie. I want this to work. I don't want to just, you know, but then we've got to figure out how do we actually do something that's achievable and meaningful. Yeah.
Anybody else before I jump in?
Before Zeke fixes everything for us, right?
Not going to happen.
Colby,
I could add one thing. I think one thing that's been frustrating for me, in addition to the capacity issues, to echo everybody else, is that we seem to be thinking about this issue of medical institutions and their role in trauma in the city of Baltimore at an institutional level or at an interpersonal level with like providers and patients. And where I have felt frustrated is, or I guess where my ideas have kind of hit barriers is at the like policy level of like the changes that I think would have the impacts that the people of Baltimore deserve. I think a lot of them would happen at the policy level. And so I'm just feeling like stuck about this subcommittee's role and power to make the change that is needed. And yeah, and separately, it's been difficult to be, I said this in our WhatsApp, but it's difficult to be the only non-provider here. I'm coming to this space as somebody who has experienced medical trauma and experienced medical institutions as harm doers, and showing up at each meeting and sharing that perspective and asking us to think systemically. It's exhausting. And I can't be the only one doing it.
Yeah, Colby, I don't know if we've 100% acknowledged the difficulty for you showing up in this space every meeting. I think the way that you just phrased it, it just hit me a little different. It's like, wow, yeah, this has got to be emotionally draining. Yeah, I really appreciate what you brought to this.
Same here.
And I think I also want to empathize with y'all as providers, because I think the systems that we have, the institutions we've set up, don't serve y'all either. And what I've heard y'all describe about lack of resources and overwork and feeling that lack of power to make the change that's needed, also, like, I just want to empathize with that. And I think systemically, we're not serving so many of us.
Yeah, we've got a system where nobody's winning. Like, nobody's feeling good. It so often feels like nobody's needs are being met. And that the clients are taking the brunt of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I definitely appreciate what you're saying, Colby, and agree with Chris that it just, it hit me what you said and how emotionally draining it could be to come here. And I definitely feel it days as well, being a mental health provider, but also then being a patient in other spaces and like seeing the struggles on each side of it. And I personally have always appreciated your perspective that you bring, because I think we all come from it from like what our roles are now and being providers, but you always bring in that other perspective that is really needed. So I just wanted to acknowledge
that. And I agree that's actually, like, from my standpoint, I think the medical service group would be more of a disservice if it was just providers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as you said, Colby, like, we come from you keep us balanced. You really do, Colby. And it's an important one that the cacophony of our voices may drown it out, but you really do. I mean, I think I've left more powerful comments of yours being like, man, like Colby's so into something. So, I appreciate and you're right. It might feel like you're the only one doing it. Then we have to make sure we can temper ourselves as well with that. So, I don't know. This Colby, you mean a lot to us in this group and to me as well. So, I've always valued your input, and I apologize if I didn't make it clear enough.
I think we just have to, and Colby, I don't want to talk for you, but I think what I'm hearing is, even being valued, you're in some way having to relive trauma every time you show up in this space. And that, as appreciated as your voice and crucial and important, and I agree with everything, right? Is there a way that we can help this not be re-traumatizing every other Thursday? Because that I don't want you to feel even more pressure with everybody saying that you're so valuable and we love you so much and we need your voice. It's like, well, then, then I feel even less comfortable backing out. If you're ever at a point where you feel like you need to do that, because we don't want to be. Yeah, I just kind of think about like some of my trigger points, and I don't want to show up in a space every other week and have my trigger points like hammered on over and over.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know that I would describe this space as re-traumatizing. But I have been considering how my role on the task force might need to shift. And I'll also name I would rather do this not live, like on YouTube, right? But like I would love to follow up via email and figure out what that needs to look like. But I just wanted to share that much, and I really appreciate all of your empathy and appreciation.
Yeah, and Colby, I would just echo that, whatever it looks like, whatever it ends up looking like, you add an invaluable perspective, just, from me to you. And so, if it's this subcommittee, if it's another one, if it's, whatever it is, I think you're great. And I think you contribute a ton. And so, definitely want to continue that conversation. Before jumping in, Tika or Tabitha, I know you all have not spoke so far. And so just want to see if y'all want to add anything.
I mean, everybody pretty much said a lot. Kobe, I do agree. You have so much to say, and a lot of what you say kind of resonates with me. And I should have said that first. Like I was thinking that too. So, yeah.
I also don't really have much to add. Sorry, my Wi-Fi's been a little shaky today. So I don't know if you all can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't think I have much to add.
All right. So yeah, I got a chance to chat with Lindsay a little bit earlier. And, I think, so a couple of things. One is, I think one of the dynamics that I think is true in this group is that y'all are a bunch of overachievers, and I think probably are putting more pressure on yourselves to like save the world and fundamentally transform systems than anyone is functionally capable of. I would agree with Panagi's point that like y'all are all awesome. That's why you're here. But I think it's really, really important, and just thinking from kind of an organizing lens, that we stay within our locus of control and don't try to bite off everything or many things, because then we'll end up accomplishing nothing and we'll feel like we didn't hit the goal and inadequate and all the rest. And that is not what this is supposed to be. So, I want to put that out front. The other piece, and Dr. Lindsay and I talked about this a little bit, is, one of the things that I think has come up that I've heard a couple of times is a desire to influence and impact the way that medical institutions, particularly hospitals, engage with, interact with community and patients, knowing that Baltimore has a deeply troubling legacy of medical racism, with Henrietta Lacks, with experiments on people, with all the ways in which communities have been harmed by the very institutions that are supposed to help. And so, when I'm thinking about that, I think that one, opening up space for that dialogue with institutions, with people in the institutions, I think is really important in and of itself. And two is, I do think there are tools that in part this task force has developed, and that we have developed around how to be more trauma responsive, how to be more effective at communicating with people in a way that recognizes their humanity instead of pathologizing or further exacerbating harm. And I think that's really important. And I think like one thing that is well within the locus of this group's control is, I think that you all could bring a group of leaders within hospitals together. And I don't think it should be all 112 or whatever of the hospitals and medical institutions that exist in Baltimore. I think, again, if you go too big, you ain't gonna get there. But pick three. Panagi's works at Hopkins, Steve works at Maryland, and Lindsay works at Mount Washington. That could be your three. Maybe add one more into the mix, and begin with an acknowledgement of harm done, and then see if medical institutions would be willing to commit themselves, their staff, to experiencing training in trauma-informed care, potentially as the Decolonizing Group is developing their toolkit, to have some of that be in the mix as well. I think that's going to take a little bit longer, but to me, when you guys articulated your goal originally, is really about how do we get like fundamental at a really kind of basic like level, how do we get medical institutions that serve most of the people in Baltimore to be better at treating people with respect and dignity. And again, I think there are, among yourselves, and with support from us, I think like you all have more than enough juice to do that. So that, that when I was just kind of like noodling with Lindsay a little bit earlier, that's kind of what came to mind for me, is like, instead of like, let's list every medical institution in Baltimore, let's let's engage everybody in the city, and let's transform all the systems. Like, I think a really important start would be to pick some of the, frankly, larger and frankly, historically more challenged institutions and sets of people within them, and just start that conversation there. Like, to me, that is the, what I've heard all you say. And I think, Chris said, so the listening session we were talking about last time we met could be focused on medical institution leadership. Yes. And or some patients, community members, right? Like here in where I live in East Baltimore, Panagis knows well, he grew up around here, but huge Latino community. Traditionally, like there was a Greek community around here, but have some folks from community, from potentially the church Sacred Heart that we've been working with, bring them into the conversation as well. But yeah, I mean, to me, I think like the place where I could see this group having an impact and being able to like move the conversation in a way that I think is really both healthy and important for Baltimore, because I don't think we've like challenged our medical institutions in this kind of way. And I think you all, again, we have the capacity to push Hopkins to be better, and to push Maryland, and to push, and to do it in a way that's, that's affirming, and that, brings people in, and, doesn't cancel anybody, but is also like really, really honest about where we've come up short. And so I just want to throw that out there, is like, one, I think you guys are doing a great job. Like, don't like over sweat it. Like, I think, it's real easy to be like, we're not saving the world yet. Why isn't that happening? But like, well, we're fine. We're doing great. But two is like, that was what I, just in listening to you all, I mean, that felt like attainable, and like something that really could, make a profound amount of impact and difference. And so wanted to, just kind of throw that out there and, see reactions and thoughts. Cause I think, again, don't make it too complicated.
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is how siloed different systems can be. So when we're talking about Johns Hopkins, like, are we talking about who? Because I would want to bring somebody from the transgender center specifically to talk, right? And that's just one example I just thought about. Like, I don't want just anybody. I want whoever's in charge of that to come talk and hear these patients talk about what it is they're experiencing and why it's re-traumatizing. Because I had to hear it, so I want them to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and from my standpoint, I mean, Zeke, I think that's important to, setting boundaries. I think you laid all that out, and that's important. And I think, as Tika's pointing out, from the transgender community, there's a variety of communities that have gotten slighted by these. I mean, my mom was turned away when she showed up to give birth to me at Hopkins, and she didn't speak English. So I was born at Franklin Square instead. And so, I get it. Like, I mean, there's a variety of people that these institutions don't have a great past, and our job is to kind of help facilitate a better future. So I think one of the things I'm taking away from what you were saying is let's pull from our own strengths, right? Here's what we do. Let's not, yeah, I think one of the things is we have to learn how to temper that, and we'll all have to do a better job of checking in. Don't like, no one should feel to go over above and beyond, because we do that already. But we all work at places where we can just pull that from, and have those kind of conversations. And for personal narratives, Tika, yeah, let's grab that community, bring them present, bring the people from Hopkins present to have those conversations. I agree. We can start with what we know to do that.
Yeah, and I would just say too, like, yeah, y'all are very, very skilled, each one of you in different kind of ways at like that relational piece of this thing. I mean, I think that's kind of why like this group is what it is, but like in different ways, you all are very good at that. And so, yeah, I think it would not be hard to get, leadership in the different institutions together with community, and to, and again, you guys we would have to think through what we want that conversation to look like and what we're asking folks to commit to. But like, I am quite confident that we could get folks who have significant influence over medical institutions in Baltimore and the big ones to the table, and to train to be better.
Yeah, Zeke, I know I gave you my feedback earlier, but I just to share with everyone else, I like that idea. I like the idea of trying to start small and build from there, rather than trying to make sure we are comprehensive and gather everything before we start, that it gives us like a smaller, more manageable piece to work with. As you said, Zeke, I think there's still, I think, I don't know, maybe it's because of how all of our minds work, we get really like logistical and practical, and okay, like, so like where my mind immediately went was like, okay, so if we get all them together, we want to share this information to kind of set up trainings. Well, how are we measuring that? Like, how will we know that what we did was effective and made a difference and they're held accountable? So then my mind immediately goes like, well, how are we measuring that? And what kind of instruments would we? So I just get so caught in the sequences to come. And I think that's often how our meetings go, is we kind of then get caught up in like, well, then how would that happen? And how would it be measured? And then, so I don't know if anyone else's brain just did that, but mine did. And also with Hopkins, like Tika, you brought up, I'm like, isn't there like 10 different campuses of Hopkins and programs? So like, who from Hopkins and which ones? Like, I get confused with all the Hopkins sites there are in general. So
it went from a list of 3 to like 15, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's like 10 different centers and 15 programs, and so yeah, I think we do big picture, and then as we're doing it, we get like really into the weeds, and then I think get overwhelmed by like, seems like there's a lot even within this small thing I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and like, Lindsay, like you would know who at Mount Washington needs to be there, right? Like, I trust that is, Panagis and Debbie and folks know who from Hopkins would need to be there, whether it's, Rick Bennett from Bayview, whether it's whomever. Like, I trust that, you guys would know the right folks that, need to be in the room on a conversation like that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that sort of sparked for me when Tika was talking is that instead of thinking about this as bringing like the big institutions together, like Hopkins, Mount Washington, Maryland, to focus on programs with just a couple of specific programs within those centers. That feels even more manageable. And if we could start with a couple smaller programs, because yeah, I immediately was like, there's so many people at Maryland, like where would we even begin? I mean, I'm in the psychiatry department, so of course that's like immediately where my head goes. And we have a lot of community services, so it's not a bad place to start. But yeah, I'm like, but even there, that's hundreds of people. And so I'm like, but maybe we can carve out programs.
No, that's spot on, Chris. I mean, yeah, you're exactly right. Like, yeah, Hopkins is enormous. Maryland is enormous. Washington is less enormous, but still, big enough. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, right. Like who in the School of Psychiatry, you know, if that's where we want to start, it's university. And again, it's got, you know, we've got you and we've got Dr. Zinn, who are both there. So, you know, who are those people? You know, the School of Psychiatry has a huge impact on Baltimore. So, you know, that could be one place, but I agree with you, like digging down into like, you know, a program or a campus or, you know, whatever, and getting to like that smaller, like not super grandiose space, I think is exactly where to go.
I always have to be reminded that, because I always start way too big, but that when we scale down, it doesn't mean we're not going to get to the other stuff eventually. It just means we're starting small. So, because I always worry, it's like, but wait, but like, yeah, you'll get there. You'll get there.
No, they'll get there. And look, if you start small, but you're like effective, but if we're effective, like it will ripple out, right? Like people hear stuff, they want to be put, you know, this is a small town, right? Like everyone's like, oh, well, you know, oh, the School of Psychiatry did this whole training thing. Well, why didn't we get to do the training thing? And when can I get to do the training? You know, and like, I mean, that's been our experience so far with like the Healing City training stuff is like, we picked one institution, which is the Enoch Pratt Free Library System. It has a discrete 457 employees, right? So it's not like Baltimore City Schools, which is like thousands and thousands of people. But we like have been very, very driven, like we have driven it really hard with the library system, and they're really like, they've been great. They're moving in some really positive directions. They have started to change their policies around like substance use and just how they're thinking about serving folks in libraries. And so like, you know, now we've got Rec and Park being like, hey, when are we going to get in the cut? And we've got the fire department being like, all of our folks have not just PTSD, but like are constantly in a fight or flight state. And so it's like, I think when you start, if we start small and kind of prove concept, and even if, again, it's not a huge thing, but I think that ripples out and then starts to build, and you don't have to, you know, go huge.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that makes sense to all of us. Thank you so much, Zeke, for coming and talking to us and hearing our concerns and helping us refocus in on what can be feasible for us as a committee. I do want to respect everyone's time. I know it's 7:03, but I know we had an email started, so if people didn't get to share. Oh,
no, I was going to say, I thought it was like confirmed. Yeah, look at the email. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, sorry. I was agreeing with you. I was like, yeah, you're right.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, hand motioning me that you needed to say something. But yeah, we can follow up in the email too if people have other additional thoughts after today.
Awesome. But yeah, I think y'all are great. I think you're on the right track. We are going to hear back sometime in the next 6 weeks about the grant to have folks from Sacred Heart become mental health care navigators, at least the first stage of it. So that is still in the hopper as well. Yeah, keep fingers crossed. That would be extremely dope. So I'll let folks know as we hear from Baltimore Core on that. And then we also have the other grant that we worked on ARPA. Hopefully hear back from that too. But again, really appreciate y'all, you know, being super vulnerable, and, you know, for the millions and millions of people watching on YouTube. Just kidding. I think my mom watches it every now and then. She asked me to send her the link, and she sometimes tunes in. So
hi, Mom.
She is retired. She has to work for a while. And anyway, but no, I appreciate you guys, you all showing up, and yeah, I hope this was helpful, and I think there's a good path forward.
It was, absolutely. Thank you. I look forward to seeing everyone next meeting in person to eat some good food.
I can't believe
it. Bye, everyone.
All right, y'all. See ya.